Good afternoon. My name is Bill Buford. I'm a staff writer with The New Yorker, and it's my good fortune to have the privilege of writing about food. And it is our good fortune that we're about to have some food tonight prepared by these three stunning chefs. And we're really just here to make you very, very hungry. I want to introduce them. I have the pleasure of responding to an invitation for this event of introducing you to the three rising stars of the culinary world, and they are here now. These are like the coolest, greatest cooks you will see in your life. And you're going to eat their food later. Yum, yum. And you will know about them in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 25 years, unless one of them dies from cardiac arrest today. Wow. I want to begin first with a man who's very special to me. Well, they're all very special to me. Daniel Humm, if I'm pronouncing the last name with the proper German disappearance of the H, who is 31 years old, who was born in Switzerland, who had the privilege of working with one of the greatest chefs of the 20th century, one Freddy Girardet, who in 2002 earned a Michelin star, and was then earned the distinction of the culinary discovery of Switzerland, which is a peculiar concept. I mean, it's a small country, but he was the culinary discovery of Switzerland. And he had a restaurant on top of an Alp. He had everything going for him. And then he moved to America, where he made a name for himself in California at a restaurant called Campton Place, and was hired in 2006 to run 11 Madison Park, part of Danny Meyer's empire. He is a great chef. He's been nominated for the Rising Star Chef in 2004, the James Beard Rising Star Chef, 2005, 2007. You have to ask, at what point does the star finally just rise? It is my pleasure to introduce you to Daniel Humm. Of course, what happened with the last Rising Chef Star nomination that Daniel lost, the crucial point here is that he's only been nominated, was that it was won by the guy next to him, David Chang. But you've also got to ask here, too, David Chang is David Chang, and again, it's another rising star. I mean, at what point, at what point is it in the middle of the sky? David Chang is the chef and owner of 3 restaurants, all of them which have the delightful name attached to it of Momofuku. Jim Harrison, the great novelist and gourmand and eater, went to Momofuku, the noodle bar, the first one in the company of Mario Batali, a chef of some renown here in New York City. And for weeks, he just said, Momofuku, 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 Momofuku. So it doesn't matter what he served, just as long as he can say Momofuku, Momofuku. One is the noodle bar, one is Sam bar, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and most recently is Momofuku Ko, which was reviewed by the otherwise witheringly brutal Frank Bruni of the New York Times and awarded 3 stars. Let us welcome David Chang. Frank Bruni gave 11 Madison 2 stars until the new chef, the guy from the Alp, arrived, and then he re-reviewed it and gave it 3 stars. My last rising star really sort of entered the life of me and my wife in an unexpected way. On a rainy day, we were crossing 22nd Street, and this manic man with a cell phone, perspiring and kind of running all over the place, said, "You there? Do you like food?" And we said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, come to my restaurant. Here, come to my restaurant. Come for free. What day? Yeah, come to my restaurant." And then he disappeared. And we thought, well, sure, we'll do that. And we duly went, and it was completely chaotic, and the waiters were running into each other, and the runners were dropping the food, and the wrong things arrived at your table. But it was our first experience of a it's kind of like friends of the family. The restaurants are very tricky operations to run, and so much of it is just knowing how to get to A to B without running into your guests. And this is one of these trial runs, and the place was called Beppe, and it was run by a great Italian chef named Cesare Casali, who is just purely Tuscan. I mean, he looks Tuscan, he's been here forever, he still doesn't speak English, he makes really bad pasta. I mean, all the really sort of things that make him authentic. He goes around with a bunch of herbs in his pocket. But he was the good thing, and we loved it, and came to love the restaurant. And then one day, he quit. And we were really, really depressed. End of that restaurant. But we went back and gave it a try, and surprise, and I really shouldn't say this, but the food was better. And it kept getting better. And that's because the guy who was left behind was just like kicking ass. And he was making like really great food. And that's our third guest tonight, Marc Taxiera, who also has the distinction of working for this manic man with the cell phone. I still never met him since, but who had the insanity to buy the Russian tea room. And when they ran into trouble there, they put Marc in there to fix it up. And now Marc's back at Beppe as well, so you can like stretch the continents and have Marc cook your food for you. Please welcome Marc. We don't have a lot of time, and we're really just here to get hungry. So I thought I'd start off by, first of all, asking Daniel, who had this perfect life on a Swiss Alp, snow, skiing, outdoors, Swiss people, watches and things. Why in the world would you want to come to America?
Well, that's a good question, but...
Thank you.
It's 25 years in Switzerland. This might be enough. Such a small country, and
You'd already been discovered.
I knew that there is more out there, so I wanted to see it.
But why America? Why not France? And
I think I was recruited from Campton Place from the general manager, who is Swiss as well, and a very close friend of his was a regular guest at the restaurant where I was working, so they were looking for a chef. And so the general manager from Campton Place, he called me in, like, he's been living here for 30 years, so his German was very American. And he also introduced himself as Paul. And in Switzerland, you don't really say your first name as far as in a business transaction like that.
There's like this wildly intimate American.
Who is this guy from California who like keeps calling me? And he asked me if I would want to come work in America. I said no. I didn't even speak English. So, and then in the end, he said, "Okay, I invite you to come to California for 2 weeks, and we pay everything." And then I say, "Yeah, well, that's a good trip. Why not?" So then I came, and we went to the French Laundry and to all the great restaurants in the West Coast, to the wineries and stuff, and I was really impressed.
Deceived.
And a lot of the food we're doing is I think Provence inspired, because that's where I spent a lot of time as a child, and I found California to kind of have the same elements. They have their own olive oils. We went to these like artichoke fields, and so I was inspired by it, and I was 24, and so I thought, why not? Let's give it a try.
And now you're in New York City, famous for its artichoke fields, its olive oil, its vibrant Provençal flavors. I see. I understand. Marc, now, how is it that a guy from Long Island?
Westchester.
Westchester.
Close. Same thing.
Whatever. It's not Italy. How is it? What happened that you're doing better Italian food than the Italian? We love Cesare, but I hope
it's not easy here.
Is it because you grew up eating spaghetti all the time, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, that had a lot to do with it. My grandmother was a war bride from Italy. My mother was born in Italy, so they took a lot of that over, to here, to America, and brought a lot of that into the kitchen all the time. So there was a large, obviously, base of Italian cooking and Italian ingredients in the kitchen. We didn't really go out to eat that often. When we did, it was a special occasion. Usually Sundays were all about, cooking and prepping and, that kind of thing. So I was always with my grandmother and my mother. So a lot of that, just stuck with me. I mean, it was kind of natural to go into that.
This is the storybook stuff. Grannies.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Sunday lunches.
I think, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of chefs that I talk to, it started out kind of the same way, they were around cooking for a long time, so.
This is why I ended up a writer. My grandmother, she sucked in the kitchen. Both of them, disgusting. I mean, it's my father's brothers. I mean, they just can't, they still can't eat a vegetable. I was with my Uncle Robert Dale, and he saw I was eating a beet. He went, "Ooh, beets." I'm sorry. David, grandmother's in your life?
Yes.
In the kitchen?
Yes.
Man, you guys got such an advantage.
She was a great cook, as is my mom still. So.
And that, tell me, in just a really crude way, are the people who cook, are they in some way kind of sick? I mean, you do all these sort of insane hours. You work like 7 days a week.
Right.
You're on your feet the whole time. It's physical. I mean, it used to be, you get people don't, you get like your illegal immigrants to do your physical work. But you guys do it. You want to do it. And you're in this closed room and you get hot and aggressive with each other. And what do you get out of making food? Do you like to be hot and bothered?
Do like to be hot and bothered, but it's fun. I mean, it's the only profession I know
what's fun about that?
You gotta act like a buffoon all day with your friends, pretty much, and you get to take a raw product and make something beautiful out of it. And the whole relationship with the farmers and your customers and the core group of cooks working together, that makes it sort of a team sport, and it's exhilarating at times.
Exhilarating. How much is sort of the pleasure of the kitchen in the exhilaration?
The kitchen's everything. I mean, we have an open kitchen. I would prefer to have a closed kitchen a lot of the times.
So it's theater.
Some of it's theater.
People come to watch you melt down?
Yeah, a lot of meltdowns.
Yeah, that's always good to watch.
So.
David mentioned the seasons. Daniel, is there cooking with the farmers and all that? Is there a season that you like more than other seasons?
I always think when the new season comes that this is my favorite season. But I think, and that's actually one thing I do love about New York. It's very seasonal. And now the spring, you're really excited about the spring because a lot of the
because it keeps
ingredients
not coming.
Are not available. Yeah, it's
still not arriving.
Still not arrived yet.
It's going to be July, and everyone's going to say spring, man, waiting for those fava beans.
But it's also going to be almost fall until it's really summer. So it's just, I think New York has more than just 4 seasons. It probably has like 12 different seasons. It's true, the seasons are short, but it's also like Burgundy wine. It's when you get an ingredient at their peak, like the TriStar strawberries that you have here. I think they're better than the California strawberries, but the season is very short,
right.
And you got to get them at the right time.
And they're better because?
I think because it's like Burgundy wine. I think it's not the easiest climate to grow, and they got to fight.
The point about Burgundy wine is that there's a view among winemakers that good wine comes from vines that have to struggle, and that sort of the worse the conditions, the better the wine, unless the plant just dies. And in California, you've got all these perfect conditions, and their wine is just nice, sunny, Cabernet. Whereas Burgundy's this moody thing where maybe you have awful wine sometimes. And you once told me that your favorite season for a chef though was the fall. Why is that? You're agreeing, Marc.
I was just thinking the fall, but then I also like the spring too. Summer's nice. Winter's all right.
You've got a dish tonight, Marc. Marc makes great pasta, and he just makes great pasta. And he's at the Russian tea room, and he was going to make food tonight, so it had to be Russian. He's clearly, very Slavic in his bearing. I'm sure there's a Russian great-grandmother somewhere.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah. And actually, I ate his Russian food, and it rocks. It's really good. But his pasta's unbelievable. And the pasta you're making tonight is like it's like everything that spring produces, even though it hasn't produced it yet.
Yeah.
Describe what's in it.
Tonight we're eating house-cured guanciale with
House-cured guanciale. Guanciale is the guancia. It's the jowls of the pig, which are cured, and they're full of fat.
They're lovely. They're great. And ramps, spring onions, spring garlic.
Ramps are wild leeks.
Yeah.
And if you're from New York, it's when you feel spring's arrived, when everyone goes out and eats these wild weeds.
They're delicious.
And they're delicious, yeah. Ramps, spring onions.
Peas, fava beans, mint.
Every dish tonight has peas in it. Someone said, maybe too much peas. And I thought, it's spring. How can you have too much peas?
Too many peas.
We have a pea.
Panna cotta with coconut and Hawaiian prawns. And we're doing a sea urchin cappuccino with crab and cauliflower.
Nice.
Hungry. Sea urchin is kind of like the ingredient at the moment, isn't it? You use it too, don't you, David?
We do. We use it a lot.
David's got pea shoots. He doesn't actually have peas, but he's got pea shoots. But we're getting the whole pea.
Yeah.
What is it about sea urchin?
There's a short season in Maine where you can get very nice East Coast sea urchin, but I think the West Coast Santa Barbara sea urchin's the best sea urchin in the world, outside of maybe Hokkaido. There's just something that it's an acquired taste, I think.
It's one of our tastes of them. I mean, you wouldn't find sea urchin on a menu 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you would have found short ribs. Well, you still find short ribs. Or 20 years ago, everyone was eating omelets.
Right.
Can you imagine that? Everyone wanted to have an omelet and cottage cheese. But sea urchin is something. It's like someone somewhere discovered how to prepare a sea urchin, and now everybody is loving it. And what do you get out of the ingredient? What do you like in it?
It has a really strong flavor that I think you can pair a lot of different things with it. And it has a creaminess. And I mean, a lot of times the best thing is just right out of the ocean, a little salt and olive oil, and then you're ready to go. Like butter sometimes. It's like butter.
Getting hungrier and hungrier.
But it also, for me, it has everything that you want out of the sea.
Yeah.
It has the sweetness, the saltiness. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
You're doing sea urchins?
I do sea urchin risotto.
I knew it. I mean, everybody's doing sea urchins. You're not a rising star chef unless you're doing something with sea urchins. I'm going to go home tonight and make something with sea urchins. Daniel, you're also doing, you're sort of flirting with the gastronomically innovative edge of cooking, if I may describe it as such, and doing, I think you're doing sous vide.
Yeah.
Sous vide cooking is, you could say it's like cooking in a baggie at a very low temperature. It's like it's like having a bath in a baggie. And the principle, he's going to do a much better job of it than I am, but the principle is you vacuum seal your food and then with your seasonings, and you cook it at a very low temperature, and the food comes out amazingly tender. But it's been very controversial, and the New York City health authorities, in fact, told everyone to stop. And now they're only allowed to do it if they're approved by the New York City health authorities, and I think you have their approval.
Yes.
Now, why do you want to cook food in a baggie?
Well, I think, first of all, it's not a new technique. It's been done for a long time, since I've been cooking. So for me, it's not really
That's a
new.
very, very long time.
It's 18 years. So, but I think the biggest advantage for me is the consistency And if you do, like in Switzerland, restaurants have 40 seats, and you do 40 covers a night. There's only one seating, and it's very different compared to what restaurants do here. You do 150, 200 covers, and I think it's...
The idea is the European idea, whereas you come for dinner, you eat, you leave. And it kind of preserves the notion that you're coming for a meal. Whereas here, it's New York, you got high rents, you're packing them in, a busy place, you got what they call a turn of the table, and then another turn of the table, and another turn of the table, unless you're running a David Chang operation, in which case the tables are just going like this all the time.
No, but sous vide definitely brings consistency. And I know, at least for us, the first time I really worked with it was in Japan, and it's been around since the 70s. But I remember being in this hotel, and they were doing like 800 covers, but they were just bringing steaks and chicken and all this stuff out of bags and really just cooking it. And when it's already cooked through, it's at a temperature that's done. And it's controversial amongst cooks because some people feel that it's not old school. You should be parlaying the steak with butter, and which you can still do cooking sous vide. And I think different meats or proteins have its pros and cons, cooking sous vide or not cooking sous vide. And
are you doing sous vide?
we do, and we are HACCP approved as well.
You're approved?
Yes.
Glad to know that. I wouldn't want you to be breaking any rules.
Well, we broke them. We were one of the first ones to get in trouble, so.
You're not approved yet, are you?
We're not approved yet, no.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. We played around with it, but...
I bet you're doing. Oh, I bet you're doing with your short rib.
I can't say.
He does a short rib beef stroganoff that you're eating tonight, which is utterly delicious.
I can't say.
Right. Only 9 restaurants, I believe, have been approved in New York City to do sous vide, and if we have 2 of them here, and John George is probably. Oh no, I don't think he's been approved yet. Interesting.
It's a very long process, to get approved.
Yeah, slow process, like the cooking itself.
That's right.
Well, I'm going to be looking forward to the stroganoff tonight. Well, I would, anyways. Daniel's point about the Swiss restaurant is a very different concept from a New York restaurant. David,
Right.
what do people want when they go to a restaurant in New York City?
I mean, it depends. I mean, you have fine dining, and where even Restaurant Danielle on the Upper East Side, they do 2 or 3 covers a night. And
Everyone understands what a cover is like a seating at a table. In the Swiss restaurant, they do 1 cover, in effect. Like one person sits at the table, eats, goes home, and that chair is then, you have the chair for the night.
Right.
It's like going to a hotel. You pay for your bed in your room, you go to the restaurant, you pay for your chair. But in New York, they rent the chairs really by the minute.
And it's a real struggle not a struggle, but you'll find a lot of European chefs not wanting to come to America because they realize they're going to have to do many, many covers, where I believe it's the right way cooking, as you say in Switzerland. You would have 40 people, you do 40 covers, and that's it. It's sort of, it doesn't really work in New York with the rents, the wages of the cooks, and all this other stuff going on, where you really need to do 3 or 4 turns to make money, to just keep your operations afloat. And it makes it more challenging.
Is the idea of restaurant changing? I hasten to remind you that this particular panel is called The Future of Dinner.
Right. I would like to see it change.
Into what?
I would rather restaurants just do 1 turn,
But I think the difference is also the guests in New York, they want to do more than 1 thing per night. It's not just us turning the tables, it's also the guests want to have 5 courses in 1 hour and then leave.
Yeah.
So if we would do only 1 turn, the restaurant would be half empty all the time because people will be there an hour and then leave. So I think it's a little bit of both. We got to do the covers to pay everything, but also the guests don't want to sit for 5 hours.
Do you think it's true?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to, be able to, feed people and do a few turns, but it is what it is.
But isn't that part of the appeal of New York? Isn't that part of being a chef in New York? I mean,
Absolutely, it's exciting.
It's an eating city, but it's a busy city. I mean, it's fast.
I can tell a California cook versus a New York cook any day of the week.
And apart from they're
slow.
stupid.
They're slow. They're slow, and it's very hard to keep pace. It's very difficult, and a lot of cooks come to New York because they want to test their mettle and to cook fine dining, and especially at a restaurant like Daniel Humm's, which is a large restaurant, and people don't understand the complexities and how hard it is to make his food as beautiful as it is, and as many dishes that come out of the restaurant. It's a real challenge, and to get cooks to be able to do that is very difficult. And a New York cook that's been trained in New York has an advantage, I think, over someone that's been cooking at some ho-hum restaurant in California.
Like the French Laundry or something like that.
Except the French Laundry, yeah.
That's pretty sleepy. I mean, they've only got a few. I've just seen movies and things. I mean, I've never been.
I'm calling out all of California.
Yes.
But the same with European cooks as well. We have a couple people from France, and they come in the beginning, and the first 2 months they're great and they're excited, but then it starts to wear and tear to do these long services.
But you guys like this. I mean, you're all kind of loons, really, aren't you? I mean, you like the buzz and the pace and the exhaustion.
I like full
Mark,
restaurant.
you got 3 children.
Yeah.
When did you have the time to do that?
I don't have a TV.
I mean, you guys don't have children. No. You can't even keep a girlfriend. He's been dating his kitchen for years.
It's fun.
It's fun. I mean, this is very different from home cooking. This is very different from the idea of, this is very different from your grandma's Sunday lunch. There's a kind of physical buzz challenge thing about a New York kitchen. Keeping up the standards, moving at that pace.
I think if you don't go nuts I don't think if you don't go nuts in the kitchen, at least one time a day, I don't think it's worth it.
If you don't go nuts at least one time a day in the kitchen, it's not worth it.
If you don't,
you guys are all loose.
That's.
Well, I don't believe the chefs that say I don't lose my temper, I don't talk. I'm not a.
They're lying.
If you don't throw a spoon at somebody at some point during the day, it's just ain't worth going to work for.
No, I mean, I think
we're like taking them back into the bicycle shed.
Yeah, we've all come from the school where you get yelled at and you get punished for not doing it right. And
how should you do different?
Yeah,
right?
and then you hear a lot of the older guys that are like, yeah, I used to yell, but I don't do it anymore. It's because they're not in the kitchen anymore and they have millions of dollars. And it's easy to be in a good mood all the time.
Tony Bourdain said that it's not just yelling. It's when you're in the kitchen, you're trying to master adversity. I mean, everything is there to go wrong. People are going to show up at the wrong time. They're going to forget stuff. There's variations in the ingredients. There's variations in the heat. I mean, the whole evening is spent to mastering adversity, which he says is why, when he's done at the end of the evening, he wants somebody to feed him. He doesn't want to think, and he wants to get very drunk.
Yes, it's very true.
Tell us about your pork dish.
We're doing the pork bun. It's a real, very easy dish for us to do, and people really like it at events like this. But it happened.
That doesn't mean that he's not treating this as something very, very special and has thought long and hard about it.
It was an 11th hour sort of addition when we first opened up the restaurant. It was, we only had like 3 or 4 items on the menu. We were like, maybe we should put this on. And I didn't realize that it would become our signature dish and allow us to fund 2 more restaurants because of this pork bun, which is basically steamed bread with pork belly and hoisin and a cucumber. And I never would have dreamed that people would be so excited to eat basically a fat bomb.
I was actually...
Unlike guanciale, yeah.
I was actually at the restaurant one day. I don't know if you remember that. But there was a guy, pork belly, it is fat. But and it's delicious. It's delicious fat. But there was a guy, and David was cooking, and he was complaining that the pork belly had too much fat. You remember that?
Yeah.
And David, they didn't really like.
It is what it is, you know? It's like,
It was a big pig.
He told them that he's not going to get another one. And
That made him very happy.
our concept of hospitality and service is very different.
Yeah, Danny Meyer wrote a book about hospitality, and I could see your autobiography being, you're the enemy!
Well, the customer is not always right. That's a perfect example. So,
Yeah, we're stupid, but hungry. I think dinner tonight starts at 7 o'clock. All these chefs prepared one dish, and it was so good, it made me so hungry that very selfishly I said, oh, come on, get them to do another one. So they're all doing 2 dishes, and I think we're in for a real treat. And I want to thank you for being here at this festival and participating in the New Yorker, and to Marc and Daniel and David. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.